First of all, before I even start, let me just say that I am simply here to explore a topic that I found kind of interesting. That doesn't mean you can't feel a certain way as well. But these are the things that popped into my head when I seen a video that popped up from Mini-Battle, a very prominent voice in the Bonelab space, talking about how Bonelab is having an adverse side effect because of it being patched every month. Or, more salaciously put, patches are ruining Bonelab. Firstly, this made me go into said video a little frustrated. And no, I was not part of the hate bandwagon that seemed to attack said video. Hell, I never even comment on anything. For a plethora of reasons, it just didn't sit well with me, and it seemed to not sit well for others. And this actually caused Mini-Battle to make a follow-up video, addressing some of the negative feedback or viewpoints shared in said comments, largely saying people were missing the point of his initial video and skewing what he was saying. I think the strongest wording for his position, that patching a game that is always being modded has an adverse side effect that plain sorcery people know too well. Oh, and he even brought up a comment like this, talking about how it completely missed the point of his video and the position that he held. But for me, I'd seen something entirely different when I seen this comment. I didn't see someone who was trying to minimize his argument or precision or perspective. I seen something different. Let me start off by saying I'm a fan of Mini-Battle and his content. Full stop. I'm not trying to criticize or be cruel in any capacity. Just want to talk about something I found interesting. But with that being said, if anybody has ever popped into Minilab streams talking about Bonelabs or the various updates coming down the pipeline, you probably know where I'm going with this. For many years now, the community has been rightfully criticizing the shortcomings of Bonelab, especially compared to Boneworks. But holy shit, does this community jump around a lot on what they want. I remember every comment section and every video in the space being ruthless about the jabs and swings they were throwing at this game that they were spending hours in. And of course, those criticisms were valid, but it makes for a very toxic vibe at the very least. And frustrated players talk and criticize, and it's in that makes for a kind of inconsistency. A part of the community constantly says how shit the mod engine is, and how ass SLZ is for abandoning the game and expecting modders to fix it. But then SLZ does something surprising. They don't just take the bag and run, but instead decide to make the game that we all were hoping for. And then those same people start saying, oh, actually don't fix the game that we've been shitting on you for not fixing for years, and instead go make another game instead. And I have a sneaking suspicion that they would probably shit all over Stress Level Zero's new game, constantly referring to Bonelab's shortcomings and inadequacies, so on and so forth. My point is that people changing their position in this way makes for inconsistencies, which human beings tend to not like in general. It's not like you can't change your mind, but it seems weird when it's in direct correlation to what you said before. More on this a little bit later. Do you remember a couple months back when SLZ finally told us about a game that thought to be abandoned was finally getting updates? And how we weren't just getting 1, but instead 9. Everyone was singing from the rooftops. I remember vividly. I was one of them. But the reason why I bring all this up is to ask you, would SLZ have been better off delaying the update till 2025 and just releasing a monster patch that had everything we wanted in it? And, hypothetically speaking, what if they also mentioned that this would have been the best course of action because it would have broken a lot of mods? Yeah, I wonder if there was a reason why they may have chosen to drip feed the content.
Brandon released a tweet stating the following. Release a Bonelab beta with minimal fanfare for the community to dissect over Christmas, or delay until it's further along and can be properly messaged. Current state is no new content, no new features, 1 year of grueling core work, polish, optimization, and prep for the future. And if this update releases, modders will be able to supply us with content while we wait for more from Stress Level Zero. I also just don't see a downside to them releasing the update. Them releasing it doesn't mean we won't be getting the new content, it just means we'll get a preview as opposed to not getting one. After an entire year of basically having us believe this update would release this year, due to a lack of communication, it would be downright disrespectful to delay it at the very last second. It seems Stress Level Zero's main concern with releasing the update with core improvements as opposed to content is community backlash, but Brandon told us that the updates won't have anything content-wise, and because of that reason alone, I truly believe the reception won't be as bad as they're probably expecting. A lot of modders seem to be for this update releasing, while a lot of regular players are for the update being delayed.
Hello everyone. I'm not Swipes. I'm a modder of Bonelab. An update to the core systems includes an SDK update. Brennan has gone on record to say that this update would only be touching on level authoring related features, but even then, it's something that modders can use to make content to fill the gap between the featureless and contentless preview and whenever they choose to add their additional content. The longer SLZ waits to release this update, the worse it really gets for modders and players included. The state of modding for the past few months have been modders being too scared to really dive in and give a real time sink into ambitious projects. So tell me, why bother waiting at all? It'll just end up extending this limbo time of the inevitable doom that is most, if not all mods breaking completely. Why not just get the pain day of migration over with as soon as possible so modders can end up porting all their mods for people to enjoy sooner? By the time the new content releases, you'll be able to jetpack joyride in the new levels with your friends in Fusion while nuking every single living creature in a 30-mile radius if you really wanted to. It makes no sense to me as to why people would choose to get the total update later. You're gonna get the same amount of content on the same theoretical day. It's just one you get half earlier, with the added bonus of having mods be migrated by the time you get the cooler 50% after.
I want Bonelab to stop updating. Modded maps and mods are Bonelab's bread and butter and basically make this game playable, and that right there is exactly why I want this game to stop updating. There are so many excellent mods that break each update and then need to be fixed before being playable again.
Okay, give me a minute. Before you think I'm taking a jab at these two, know that I was right there with them. I wanted more content, we all did. Code mods were kind of slowing down and it was a dry spell for mods. And constantly we were hearing about how the engine itself was just so shit that it could barely create anything. Level mods were so difficult to create and you had to come up with 16 different types of ways just to kind of emulate anything. Like patching a gaping wound with 1,000 band-aids. Possible, but very impractical for most people. And nothing's really changed on my end. I still want Sorcery Level 0 to fully update the game and patch it into oblivion. And then stop, of course. But I also know that I was one of those people pushing for this kind of sequence of a drip feed. So I can only speak for myself, but for me, I asked for this. And yes, it has shortcomings, but it also has some benefits that we'll talk about later. But regardless, it's the bed that I made for myself, so I gotta sleep in it. Maybe it's more like a concrete floor, but I have a feeling that in the future it may not be so hard. So, to bring this all around, I think if you watch these two videos, i.e. the argument made by Mini Battle and many other mod authors to say, release the patch as soon as humanly possible, followed up by, patches are now ruining the game, yeah, you can start to understand why this comment makes just a little more sense. Let me put it this way. You are absolutely valid in being frustrated with this game and the shortcomings and expectations that were never met, even if you downright hate certain parts of it. But if I could implore you to just think from a different perspective just for a small little while. Like, for example, if you had a very special meta deal that was probably going to be the make or break financially for your company, and following that up with your deep desire to want to create a game engine more than you did a game, and justifying that want because of it being better for the entirety of the VR space with how barren it is. So with your priorities set on making a better game engine, you set off to work on Bonelab's backends. Also having to listen to people shit on you for what even you know was not what you promised or even wanted. Only for you to reach out to your beloved community on what you ought to do and for you to get a resounding response to release patches as soon as possible so that the community has something to play with and for modders to be able to mod something from said patches. And for you to do exactly that. Alas, the community was thrilled to be getting patches and content finally in the game they love so dear. Only for them, months later, oh yeah, that stuff we've been saying for years, forget all that. We're still probably gonna shit talk you a little bit. Just move on and like work on your next game. Just do that. And let modders fix it. Despite, for years, we have been saying how dog shit and evil you are for depending on mod authors to, of course, fix your game. But move on and just do something else. Hot damn, at the very least, that's a lot of mixed signals. I feel like that came across more aggressive than I wanted it to. Again, maybe I'm giving Sorcery Level 0 way too much credit. And they were counting the money they got by meta from the great lie that was Bonelab as they twirl an evil mustache and spin around in their chair. But if that was the case, why didn't they just up and leave? Why come back and try to finish Bonelab? It's not like there's a lot of competition in the VR space, and can you honestly say you wouldn't buy Stress Level Zero's next game? I mean, Bonelab was undersold, but I still think people put it into like a must-try game, even only for the reason that VR is kind of a barren wasteland when it comes to games sometimes. Truth be told, I think it's a terrible financial decision to not just move on from Bonelab, but it's one that I'm happy they ended up making. Yes, it sucks to not be in the era of code mods anymore, but I genuinely think they'll be back and better than ever. Also, I would like to point out how much patches do seem to really help. One of the Bonelab's greatest problems back in the day, especially a couple years back, was trying to find a level mod that wasn't just a square empty box. And now they seem to be the main course of modding, which honestly is probably for the best, considering even if you have a bunch of gun mods, it's nice to have something to go do whilst using said gun mods, or whatever else the community cooks up. But in a few months, when grips are back, and now we also have levels and weapons for modders to run wild creatively in, then I think we'll be left in a much better place. But of course, it is going to rain and pour before we get any light from the ever-setting sun. So, till then, I'm off to go play and mod the ever-living hell out of Blade and Sorcery, because finally the game finished updating. You think Bonelab had it bad? Holy fuck, dude. Holy shit. Blade and Sorcery had one big update that bricked every single goddamn mod thing you had. Jesus, it's finally over, and it's just, oh my god, the mod's gonna be so fucking fire. Anyways, alas, I hope you enjoy your day. And before people call me an SLZ dick rider, let me ask you one final thought. What state do you believe Bonelab will be in a year and a half from now? Who knows, maybe we'll get a VR game that is as big as Half-Life Alyx was for VR. But I think me and you both know that we'll be here, playing a game powered by the brilliance of mod authors. That's if they choose to stick around, at least. My name is GRINN, and I hope I can see you again. Also, please no hate for mini battle or like swipes, anything like that. Again, we were all on the same team, more or less, about being like, release the patches sooner, now. So I'm also a part of that. You're probably in that, even if you don't want to admit it. You probably wanted content because we were starving back in the day. And again, it's gonna be shit before it gets better. So alas, I'll see you in like 6 or 7 months when hopefully we can say this was a well worth endeavor.